Hello, my name is Adam Barlow. I'm a program manager on the Windows Developer Experience team. Today I would like to introduce you to the Semantic Zoom control, which is included as part of the Windows library for JavaScript. Semantic Zoom is a control used by apps in Windows 8 for displaying large sets of content in a truly user-friendly format. Semantic Zoom is unique in that it provides an easy-to-navigate, touch-optimized view of the data you present to users. In designing Windows 8, we wanted to ensure users wouldn't have to pan tediously through large sets of content with touch. Semantic Zoom is our solution to this problem. It gives users the capability of quickly jumping to sections of the view and greatly reduces some of the pain points traditionally associated with large collections. As you can see here, Semantic Zoom allows the user to quickly jump to any given location in the view, in this case, the last group of my start screen. Not only is Semantic Zoom a great navigation mechanism, but it also allows you to communicate a higher level organization to your data, using the zoomed out or semantic view. For example, in the People app, you can zoom out. Here you will see a higher level abstraction of the data in terms of letters of the alphabet. This is extremely powerful and can be used to communicate important information to the users of your application. For instance, you could use the cell spanning functionality of the WinJS list view to demonstrate the relative sizes of your groups. Although Semantic Zoom is easily performed with touch using the pinch and stretch gestures, it also works well with mouse and keyboard, ensuring that regardless of input mechanism, your users will have access to the important benefits of both the jumping and presentation functionality. With mouse, you can use the Semantic Zoom button located conveniently at the bottom right of the view, and with keyboard, you can zoom by holding down the Control key and pressing the plus or minus keys on the keyboard. There are many app scenarios which would benefit from the inclusion of Semantic Zoom. Content organized by alphabet, as shown in the People app, and even disparate grouped content, such as the Travel app, all benefit from the functionality it brings. You may be asking, great, but when should I use it? A good rule of thumb is, whenever your view becomes sufficiently complex to require grouping, it usually makes sense to begin using Semantic Zoom. Given this guidance, the most common scenario involving the Semantic Zoom control is adding it to an app that already has a grouped list view. I would like to walk you through that very scenario and show you how to begin using Semantic Zoom with a grouped WinJS list view. The next section of the video assumes you already have an app that uses a WinJS list view with grouping. In this case, I am using the grouped list view included in our Windows SDK samples. Here, we have the grouped list view sample code running inside a blank Visual Studio template. I've modified it to run it full screen by editing the CSS. The first step is adding another list view, which will represent the zoomed out view. In this case, let's repurpose the list view we already have and go ahead and create a second list view that will represent the zoomed out view. In this case, I'm going to call it list view out. It's important to note that we will use the group data source of the first list view as the item data source of the zoomed out view. And we'll no longer need any of the group data source or the group header template, as the zoomed out view won't be grouped. So we can go ahead and get rid of this code. However, we'll need to point it to a new template that will represent the items in the zoomed out view. In this case, I will name it zoomed out template. We need to go ahead and actually create that template, and I've done that already. I'm going to go ahead and paste that code in our templating section. At this point, all we need to do is actually add the Semantic Zoom control, which acts as a wrapper of these two list views. I'll do that now, giving it an arbitrary ID, in this case, my Semantic Zoom. So let's go ahead and we'll paste in the Semantic Zoom, which is a div with the data-win-control winjs.ui Semantic Zoom property. And we'll go ahead and close that div here at the bottom. Now let's go ahead and hit run and see what we have. Here you can see we have a list view, and you can see that we have the icon in the corner that represents the shortcut for zooming out with the mouse. And here we have our Semantic Zoom. But we can tell that the Semantic Zoom as it is doesn't represent the look and feel that we're going for our app. Next, let's add some more styling to customize the look and feel of our zoomed out view. I'll add a few rules for moving the top margin down, sizing the zoomed out items, and increasing the font size. I already have some CSS rules written that will customize the look and feel of our Semantic Zoom. Let's go ahead and paste those in here to our CSS file. Let's change the max rows to 1, as we only want one single row for this Semantic Zoom. And let's go ahead and hit run again. There, now you can see we have a simple, touch-optimized navigation story for this set of data. That's the power of Semantic Zoom. In summary, we have explained that Semantic Zoom is a fantastic way to add improved navigational functionality to your app, and have shown how easy it is to wire up as an addition to an already grouped list view. Also, remember the rule of thumb. Whenever your view becomes sufficiently complex to require grouping, you might want to use Semantic Zoom. For further information and complete API documentation and help with more advanced scenarios, please see the Dev Center.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Garrigue, a program manager on the Windows Store team. Before your customers can acquire your app from the Windows Store, you'll need to sign up for a Windows Store developer account. Today, I'll show you an overview of the sign-up process and provide some insights into a few of the key questions you'll need to answer as part of signing up. From working on your app in Visual Studio, you can find a link to signing up to the store from the Store menu. Follow the link to Open Developer Account. After reviewing this initial page, follow the Register Now link. To use the Windows Store Dev Center, you first need to log in with a Microsoft account, or create one if you don't have one already. Before you start the actual process of signing up, it's worthwhile to take a moment to decide which Microsoft account you would like to use to sign up to the Windows Store. This is important because this can't be changed later, and the apps you publish are going to be permanently associated with the Microsoft account you sign up with. If you already have an account as a Microsoft developer somewhere else, such as the Windows Phone Marketplace, you can use the same Microsoft account to sign up for the Windows Store. If you do this, your developer identity and publisher name will be the same for all of your Windows and other apps. Also, some of the fields during Windows Store sign-up will be pre-filled, and any changes made to your identity here apply everywhere your account is used. It's also a good idea to consider whether you are going to be sharing the account credentials with anyone else, for example, if you work as part of a team. If this is the case, you probably don't want to use your personal Microsoft account, as it likely contains personal information that you might not want to share with other people, for example, access to your email and contacts. If you are signing up on behalf of a company, it's a good idea to create a new Microsoft account for the company rather than using your personal Microsoft account. Let's talk a little bit about security. The Microsoft account that you use with the Windows Store gives you the ability to publish and modify your apps, and the ability to specify where the money from your app sales is deposited. Because the Microsoft account is what secures this information, the Windows Store Dev Center has special security requirements for logging in that might go beyond what you are used to for other services. In certain circumstances, the Windows Store requires what we call strong authentication, something in addition to your username and password. This can be a trusted Windows 8 PC, an additional email address, or a phone number. Make sure that the Microsoft account that you sign up with has at least one of these methods configured so that you can respond easily to the secondary authentication request when it comes. If you are signing up for a company where many people are going to need access to the account, it's also a good idea to route the secondary proof email address to an alias so that your coworkers can still log in if they need to do so and you are on vacation. One of the key choices you will need to make during sign-up is whether to sign up as an individual or a company. Company accounts require a little more verification because we need to make sure that you're authorized to create an account on the company's behalf. In addition, only company accounts can submit desktop applications to the store. Also, company accounts can submit Windows Store apps that use a few additional capabilities, which are not needed by most apps, but can be important for apps intended for things like corporate intranets or banking. You can follow the link on this page for more information about the details. If you are a sole proprietor or an individual, you should select the Individual Account Type option. With an individual account, if you're in the United States, you'll need to supply your Social Security number to receive payments. With a company account, if you're in the United States, you'll need to supply your employer identification number. If you plan on incorporating soon, you might want to do this first, as you can't change the account type later. The email address that you enter here will be the one to which notifications about app publishing events will be sent. The publisher display name you enter during sign-up will become your brand in the store, so pick it carefully. Your customers will come to know your apps by this name, so pick a name that uniquely represents your identity and your products. For company accounts only, you'll be asked to enter contact information for an approver who can verify that you have permission to publish apps for the company. This person has to respond before your apps can be published, so make sure they are aware that they will be contacted by the store. Accept the App Developer Agreement to continue with your registration. If you have a registration code, enter it here. I'm using one today for the purposes of this demo. Enter the info about your payment method. This is required even if you have a registration code. Confirm your order. From here, you can continue to your new dashboard for your apps, or do some additional setup to configure how you will get paid for your app sales. You can now start defining and uploading your apps right away. This concludes our walkthrough of the sign-up process to become a Windows Store developer. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing your apps in the Windows Store.
Hi, I'm Travis Leithhead, and I work on the Internet Explorer team. Today I want to show you some of the great new HTML5 features available in Internet Explorer 10. There's a lot of new features to cover, and I won't cover them all in this video, but I want to focus on one particular area of HTML5 that allows you to enhance your client-server communications. Specifically, I'm going to walk you through the enhancements available to the XMLHttpRequest object in IE10. XMLHttpRequest, which I'll just abbreviate as XHR, is one of the original technologies that makes web pages look and act more like native Windows apps. For example, on SkyDrive.com, as I navigate through the site, the folder contents are updated without needing to switch pages. XHR makes this possible by allowing the web app to request data from a server at the developer's discretion. I'll use a demo and some JavaScript code to show how this works on a smaller scale. The first thing to note is that XHR is an asynchronous process. This means that XHR will start the request for data and then notify you in the future if that request succeeded. To prepare my code, I've created a wrapper function, getData, that takes a callback function as a parameter. The code to request the data is activated when I click a button, and after all the data is available, I then process the result in this last function. In this first demo, I have already created a web service that returns a snippet of HTML with the current date and time. Now I'll write the code in the browser that uses XHR to call that web service. I start in the getData function. First, I create a new XHR object. Next, we configure it by telling it to make an HTTP GET request to my server for the URL services. This is an address of my date and time web service. Then I indicate that I want the response to be a text string, since I expect an HTML-based response. After the XHR object begins transmitting my request, it will progress through a series of state changes and notify my code after each change using a readyStateChange event. I add an event handler for those ready state changes, and a similar handle for the load event, which notifies me when all the data has been received. My load event handler is where I check the HTTP status code for success, and then conditionally pass the actual response on to the next part of my code. Finally, I instruct XHR to send the request to my web service. This is the line that begins the asynchronous process. Here's how the code plays out. After clicking the button, readyStateChange change events begin firing. By the second state change, I already know the HTTP status code. Ready states 3 and 4 complete, and then the load event fires. And I display the results in the box. IE10 now supports sending and receiving arbitrary binary data in addition to text-based content. I'll modify this demo to get binary data from my web service in the form of a JPEG image. I've only had to make 2 changes to my browser XHR code to enable this. First, I changed the open request address to be my picture web service. And second, I changed the response type to blob, which is a binary large object. With these changes, XHR returns a blob object in the response. To import the blob object into an image tag, I obtain a URL string from the createObjectURL function, and then revoke it when done. Now, each time I make an XHR request, my web service returns a new picture, which is then displayed in an image tag. Next, consider a messaging web service designed to notify the browser when it gets a message. For example, a message from a friend while you're logged in to Outlook.com or Facebook. For this scenario, XHR can be used to create a continuously open connection to the web service. The web service can then use that one-way channel to push messages to the browser as soon as they become available. The browser code is relatively easy. I set XHR's response type to be text. And in this case, I want to retrieve the response when the ready state is loading, rather than when the connection closes in the done state. I also have to manage my own loaded offset value because the response text property always contains the complete response from the beginning of the conversation. Each time the server writes more data to the response, the ready state event fires. Note that more sophisticated two-way communication is possible in IE10 using WebSockets. In the previous demo, the progress bar was indeterminate because the client had no idea how long the connection would remain open. When downloading or uploading large files to the server with XHR, you can use progress events to show the user how much longer the transfer will take. I no longer have to track the loaded offset when using progress events because both the current and total amount left in the transfer are reported for me. When the total amount is not known, the length computable property will be false. With the prior demo, I still had to wait for the download to finish before playing the video. Using a new response type, MSStream, available in IE10, I can start consuming the binary data before the download is even completed. Here's the code change that makes this possible. I hope you've enjoyed learning about XHR. One XHR feature I didn't demo was support for cross-origin requests, which requires servers to opt in order to share resources across different domains. These enhancements to XHR are just a few of the powerful new HTML5 features available in IE10. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Jacob Rossi, and I'm a Program Manager for Internet Explorer. For Windows 8, we built IE10 to be a first-in-class browser for touch. Not only did we want fast and fluid panning and zooming of the web you use today, but we also wanted to enable web developers to build exciting new experiences that take advantage of multi-touch and gestures. Let's take a look at just some of the improvements we've made for touch input in IE10. Touch has quickly become a common way to interact with sites and apps across many of the devices we use every day. Touch interaction is fun and more intuitive because it allows you to directly interact with the content on the screen. It feels as though you're directly manipulating a physical object like a piece of paper, because it reacts instantly and sticks to your finger the entire time. If the browser is slow to react or the content lags behind your finger, you notice. That's why we completely redesigned the input and composition pipeline of Internet Explorer to ensure that panning and zooming are always responsive and buttery smooth with your touch. We also made sure that it's compatible and performant with common patterns like fixed elements, or video, or animations. So panning and zooming is fast, smooth, and compatible with Sites Today and IE10 for Windows 8. When you build new sites, make sure to take advantage of this native scrolling and zooming so that you can lean on this powerful hardware-accelerated architecture, rather than manually manipulating the page using input events and programmatic layout changes that may not perform as well on lower-end devices. Here are a few other important guidelines that will help ensure your customers who use touch can most effectively use your site. It's a common pattern on the web to enable menus and other interactive UI that is hidden until a mouse cursor hovers it. This is possible because a mouse can hover content by pointing at it without clicking. However, with a touch, a tap is both hover and activation in one action. So functionality that requires hover without activating will not work for touch users. As you can see here, a tap on the top level menu item navigates me away rather than opening the menu. Instead, avoid UI that requires hover and consider making all touch interactions click-based, so they'll work equally well for mouse or touch. As I mentioned earlier, the browser enables panning and zooming by default for all pages because users expect it to just work. So when a user drags a finger on the screen, the browser will consume that input and DOM events are not sent to the page for the movement. If instead your site needs to provide special functionality for these touch interactions, you must configure IE10 to provide only the default touch behavior you want, if any. This is done using the new MS Touch Action CSS rule. Let's take a look at an example. In this page, I've built a custom slider control. With the mouse, I can easily drag it back and forth. But with touch, the default behavior is my dragging on the control pans the page instead of producing events. For this scenario, I want to use MS Touch Action None in order to disable default touch behaviors and allow the control to receive events for the movement of my finger. With the property applied, I can now use the slider with my finger. MS Touch Action allows for more specific configuration of the touch behaviors, like enabling pinch zoom but disabling panning. For more on how to do this, head over to the IE Developer Center on MSDN. IE10 also introduces support for HTML5 input controls, all of which we've designed to be touch-friendly. For example, select controls can pan with inertia, and the range control keeps working even if your finger slides off of it. For text inputs, you can further improve your user's touch experiences by identifying the specific type of input when applicable. Internet Explorer will show a tailored touch keyboard layout for that input type on Windows 8. For email, the keyboard shows an @ button and a .com button. For URLs, the keyboard shows a / button and a .com button. For telephone, the keyboard shows a number pad. Another important difference between a mouse and touch is the accuracy of the input. While a mouse can accurately pinpoint a single pixel on the screen, a finger is a much coarser form of input. IE10 uses smart touch targeting to help improve the accuracy of touches, but you should also take this important input difference into consideration when designing your site's UI. There's no perfect size for touch targets, and different sizes work for different situations. But in general, based on our research, we recommend touch targets be a minimum of 7mm by 7mm, or about 40 pixels by 40 pixels. Additionally, you should provide at least 2mm, or about 10 pixels, of margin between adjacent targets. This ensures users can confidently tap buttons and other UI on your site. When you're ready to take your site to the next level of touch interaction, IE10 offers a suite of APIs for handling touch in your site, including input events, gesture recognition, and programmatic control over the personality and behavior of panning and zooming. As you can see, we've made a significant investment to enable the best touch experience on the web in IE10, and we're excited to see what new experiences web developers can build with the powerful APIs we've provided. To learn more about the full suite of APIs for mouse, pen, and touch input in IE10, see the additional reference links here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shai Hinitz, and I'm a Senior Program Manager on the Windows Ecosystem team. And today, I'd like to talk to you about the investments we've made in Windows 8 to deliver the best possible experience for gamers, as well as the best platform for game developers. Playing games is something a lot of us do, and Windows has a great history of gaming. If you have games from older versions of Windows you love to play, nothing has changed. You can keep playing those games just like you used to. You can expect them to even perform better on Windows 8. For example, here's Age of Empires Online. But we think gamers are going to love the new features of Windows 8 as well. So let's take a look at some new gaming scenarios that shine on Windows 8. When I'm at the Start screen, the games I care about remain alive with activity and catch my attention with the latest high scores, or my next achievements, and new challenges for my gamer friends. The games I love most have live tiles that get me to come back and play again and again. So, imagine I'm waiting at home to hear back from my friend Phil about when and where we're meeting for lunch. But I don't want to keep covering my game with a messaging app. If I want more than one app open at the same time, I can snap one to one side of the screen and have the other app take the extra filled space. So here we can see that Phil is communicating with me while I'm playing the game. Now I have two apps running at the same time. When I want to switch back to messaging to continue chatting with Phil in full screen, I can drag this bar over. Notice that this particular game is still playable in snap mode. This keeps me engaged in the game, even when I'm chatting with friends and doing other things. Let's look at how Windows 8 allows me to play the games I love using the input device of my choice. This is a sample game that we have running on my machine, which I can play using touch, the mouse, or the Xbox controller. Or a combination of them all. Most games have options and settings I can get to using the Charms bar. In this game, I can enable special powers to let me quickly get to the end of the game so I can show you notifications and sharing. Here you see I've achieved a high score and the system has notified me of world domination and achieving of a high score. Because I achieved such a great score, the game notifies me that I just became #1 on the Marble Maze leaderboard. Another case where notifications may be useful is to let players know about updates or invitations from their friends to play games. In this case, since I got such a great score, I want to impress my friends, and sharing it is easy using the share charm. So far, I've covered several features that I'm sure gamers will love in Windows 8. Let's now switch to why game development for Windows 8 is a game changer. Windows 8 provides the best opportunity to bring your app to the world with the Windows Store. We wanted to allow you to make money easily, apps can have a free time-limited trial with no extra coding. You can also offer a feature-limited trial that gives players a chance to enjoy some of the basic features of your game for an unlimited time. Players who want to enjoy more of the game can purchase downloadable content or in-app purchases that you can easily incorporate as part of the game commerce. The Windows 8 Store's global reach enables me to easily offer my game to hundreds of millions of game players around the world. And because I want to quickly get a lot of players, I made it available for free. But once I have a large number of users, I want to have in-app purchases to make money off of my hard work. Here's a sample game that we provide code for to show you how to add in-app purchases to your game. In the app bar, I can launch the store panel, purchase the full version of the game, and then buy in-app purchases to let me swap the background. I could have also incorporated advertising in my game to earn some extra income. The terms of the Windows 8 Store are the best in the business. I'm free to choose my own commerce platform and keep the most revenue for myself, or use the Windows Store's commerce backend and keep 80% of the revenue for my games that make over $25,000. As you can see, we make it easy to make money in many different ways. As a game developer, I get great telemetry on my dashboard about my game in the market. I can follow the app listing views, my game's downloads, the purchases, even in-app purchases. The Windows Store makes monitoring quality easy too. As you can see, I can track how well my app is doing. I can get reports on every crash as well to ensure a high quality bar. Making a game requires access to lots of capabilities of the device. For example, you need great graphics, input capabilities, audio, and so on. Windows 8 has a comprehensive game development platform that includes all the necessary components. This game development platform is now available to Windows Store app developers as part of the standard Windows 8 distribution. As you can see, in Windows 8, we made improvements for game developers to ensure they have the right APIs to get what they need built, shipped, and in the store, making them money. Perhaps more importantly, we've also changed the gaming experience in Windows 8 to make sure your game is always front and center. To learn more, be sure to check out these resources.
Hi, I'm Phil Naparolsky, and I'm a program manager on the Windows ecosystem team. In Windows 8, performance and battery life were important factors, so we wanted to offload as much as possible onto the machine's graphics hardware to speed up everything you do. That's why we invested in DirectX to hardware accelerate almost every aspect of the user experience. Graphics is literally at the core of Windows 8. As part of the work we did on graphics, everything from the lock screen, to the start screen, to live tiles, to the stick-to-your-finger touch interactions are fast, fluid, interactive, and responsive. All Windows Store apps are graphics accelerated, including Internet Explorer 10, web-style apps in HTML, and every element rendered with CSS markup, all the XAML UI widgets, zooming in and out, and of course, video playback. With Windows 8, we want to give developers choice, especially in their choice of development language. You can either use HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS, which then let you reuse assets between your app and a website that runs on IE. Or you can create a great app using C#, VB, and XAML. If you're familiar with these languages from other platforms, you'll feel right at home developing apps for Windows 8 with them. HTML and XAML have built-in UI toolkits to give you a head start building a great-looking Windows Store app. Designers can use Blend for Visual Studio to quickly create your app's UI without writing even a single line of code. If you want to create an awesome 3D experience, we recommend you use C++ and DirectX to get the most performance and flexibility the system can offer. You can also try a combination of DirectX and XAML to benefit from the UI toolkit and DirectX power and flexibility. Windows 8 applications are beautiful and graphically rich. Here's an application called Cocktail Flow that is a great example of a fast and beautiful app. The new Windows 8 graphics platform offers comprehensive technologies to deliver all the graphics requirements in Windows Store applications. With HTML5 and CSS3, you can create beautiful fonts, render images and videos, shapes, and much more, just like you've been doing when building web pages. And if you want lower level control, we make that happen. You can use C++ with DirectWrite for text rendering, the Windows Imaging component and Media Foundation for images and video, Direct2D for drawing 2D objects, and finally, you're able to use Direct3D for an immersive experience. If you want to use the GPU for general purpose programming, I encourage you to try out Direct Compute, or even its higher level version called C++ AMP. The new Windows 8 graphics stack is better integrated, making interoperation between Direct2D, Direct3D, video, and Direct Compute components easier to use together and requiring fewer duplicated resources, making it even faster than it was before. The graphics stack builds from the bottom up with the DXGI, the DirectX graphics infrastructure, managing the GPU hardware resources below it. The Direct Compute, Direct3D, and video modules map to equivalent components in the actual GPU hardware. C++ AMP, Direct2D, and the Media Foundation components are higher-level abstractions, built on the technologies below them. Finally, the HTML and XAML rendering components represent the highest-level developer-facing abstractions for ease of development and high performance. Literally every pixel on the screen is hardware accelerated through DirectX, either indirectly via HTML XAML markup or through Direct3D calls to the GPU. Finally, the new DirectX 11.1 features in Windows 8 offer many performance improvements and innovations that allow you to add stunning high-quality graphics and even stereoscopic 3D to your apps. With the latest Direct3D 11.1, we made many investments I think you'll love. Along with stereoscopic 3D, we made it so Media Foundation, which handles video and audio playback, to now use DirectX under the hood to give you the best performance and the best battery life. Those performance and efficiency improvements have been made throughout Windows 8. We've improved DirectWrite, which handles everything to do with text, so it now also has increased performance, text kerning, text justification, and that makes your application text more beautiful and easier to read than ever before. Finally, Direct2D comes with a great effects library. For instance, in this example, the Windows Imaging component is used to load a PNG image that interoperates with the Direct2D image effects library to let us create this awesome ripple effect. You can even write your own effects using HLSL. If that wasn't enough, Direct2D effects also allows you to add lighting. As you can see, in Windows 8, we made sure graphics performance is awesome and easy to use for developers. For more information, check out these resources. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Laura, and I'm a Commerce Program Manager in the Windows Store team. There are a lot of different ways you can make money with your app on the store. Today we'll talk about how you will receive payments for your app sales. Perhaps you're not a fan of reviewing bank statements and filling out tax forms? Don't worry. With the Windows Store, our goal is to put as few financial and tax documentations burdens on you as possible. Let's review our revenue share model first and take a look at how to set up your payout and tax information. Payments to developers are processed on a monthly basis for all eligible transactions. transactions become eligible for payment 30 days after the purchase occurred. To receive a payment, all you need to do is accumulate at least $200 or equivalent in app sales that you haven't been paid for yet. Remember that app sales represent the total amount sold, while app proceeds represent the amount sold minus the store fee. This store fee is calculated on a per transaction basis as well. These fees are based at 30% of the app price until the app being sold reaches $25,000 or equivalent of lifetime sales. Once the sales goal is reached, the fee drops to 20% of the app price. Note, this calculation includes both your app and in-app purchases made through the store. Now, let's log on to the developer dashboard and get set up to receive payments. The first thing to do is to specify the bank account where you'd like to receive the money. Make sure you have your account information handy. After logging into the store dashboard, click on the payout link in the left column. You can only specify a single account at any time to receive payments. You can change the account in the future, but for security, it may delay your next payment for up to a month. Since the account has not been specified before, click Add Payout Account to enter the account information. For your protection, you may be asked to supply the verification code from the credit card you registered with before specifying your payout account. Now, select the radio button for a new bank account and enter the requested information. In the United States, this will include specifying an account type, routing number, and account number. Note the information required will vary from one country to another. Then, confirm that the address for the account listed, based off the address you supplied at sign-up, is accurate, and then click Save. Notice that the account information you just entered is listed on the payout page. At this point, you've completed entering your payout account information. Now, we need to collect some information about your residency status and tax details required by the United States Internal Revenue Service. This process applies for all developers worldwide and will vary depending on whether or not you or your business has an existing connection with the United States. As an example, let's look at my United States account. In this case, I have registered as an individual, which means I'll keep my social security number handy. Now, click on the tax link in the left column. At this point, the tax profile is incomplete because no forms have been submitted yet. You can click on the Continue button to start that process. On the first page which is displayed, look at the different circumstances listed by the first option. One of these will likely apply to you if you've ever had any connection with the United States. For this demo, I'll go ahead and select this option and continue. Now, the actual form that must be completed is displayed, which is called a W-9. First, enter your name. For an individual registration, this would just be your full name. If this was a company registration, you'd enter the business name on the first line. Now, select the organization type and enter your address. Scrolling down to Part 1, you will need to enter your Social Security number. Had this been a company registration, this is where you'd enter an EIN,
or Employer Identification Number.
You electronically sign the form by entering in your name and clicking Next, and you're done. The form will be validated instantly, and as you will see on the resulting page, the tax profile is now valid. At this point, the individual registration is ready to receive payments. For individuals and businesses outside the United States, a similar process must be followed, although the form you complete is different. As an example, let's quickly walk through these steps with a developer registration from Germany. You would start the same way by visiting the dashboard, selecting Tax, and clicking Continue to manage the tax profile. This time, however, because the developer has no connection with the United States, choose the second option and specify Germany as the country. On the page which follows, confirm your address details which were specified during registration. Next, the developer would answer a quick question about their relationship to their organization and then be presented with form options. Most Windows developers will qualify to file the form W8BEN. Let's select that and continue. All developers must complete Part 1 of the W8BEN form. Note that an international taxpayer identification number is not needed to sell applications on Windows. If you do not have this number, simply leave that field blank as you fill out the form. Quickly review and enter any other required fields that were not pre-populated for you. As a developer outside the United States, you are subject to additional tax withholding on your app proceeds sold only in the United States. In many cases, though, you probably can take advantage of a tax treaty to reduce or eliminate those withholdings. The type of rate you can qualify for depends on the country you or your organization resides in. You can do this by completing Part 2 of the form and by specifying the residency country. If your country is not listed, unfortunately no treaty benefit is available. Then, select the offered article, special rate, and reason for claiming the benefit. In the case of Germany, you can select 0% withholding, which means you'll receive all of your app proceeds. In order to submit the form, scroll to the bottom and enter your name. By this time, you should have received an email containing a PIN that is required to electronically sign the form. Enter it here. After I click Submit, in most cases, unless indicated otherwise in the confirmation screen, you are done. These W-8 forms are processed quickly, but not instantly. Check back a few hours later on your tax profile page to see if your status has changed to valid. You can always learn more about how to correctly complete the required tax forms by visiting the Internal Revenue Service's website. As you can see, for Windows 8 developers, we designed your dashboard and developer experience to be simple and streamlined as possible. Good luck selling your apps.
Hello, my name is Arik Cohen, and I'm a lead principal program manager on the Windows Store team. And I'd like to discuss how you can take your LOB apps and deploy them within your enterprise. We'll talk through the options that you have for getting your app to your users, and the implication of those options to both you as the developer, the IT admins in the enterprise, and your users. Let's get started by looking at the main decision you have to make around deploying your app to business users. That decision is, how do you want to deploy it? Do you want to submit it to the Windows Store, have it certified by Windows and installed and updated by end users? Or do you want to do IT direct distribution, in which case you're going to have it certified by the corporation, by the enterprise that's going to be doing the distribution, and then it's going to get installed and updated via an IT supplied process. Let's dive a little bit deeper around each of these options. Starting out with the Windows Store. It's important to realize that all of the LOB apps that you submit to the Windows Store are certified by Windows. So we do validation of the ISV, of you as the developer. We do technical certification to make sure that the app meets the technical requirements for Windows. This is done by running things through the Windows App Certification Kit. We also do content certification, where we make sure that the app runs as expected, has all of the content that is expected, and meets the business requirements and the certification requirements of the apps in the Windows Store. The apps are managed by the user, so installation is done by the user. They either click on a link that was given to them that takes them to the appropriate place in the store, or they go navigate in the Windows Store themselves and find that app, download it, and it's available to them on multiple PCs, similar to all apps from the Windows Store. They get to do rating and review, and they also get to manage the updates and when updates get taken place. Payment and authorization. A Windows Store app will commonly be used by you when you're selling to multiple enterprises or multiple corporations. And then the payment and authorization is done directly with you, the ISV. Likely you will have a secondary authentication into your app that actually uniquely identifies which enterprise, which customer is using that app. This is commonly seen for a variety of CRM-based applications. And then you can either list the application for free, in which case the corporation will get an account with you and do the billing directly with you. And you can use the Windows Store Receipts APIs to provide seat-based licensing and volume-based information. You will have information about installations, both on a per user and a per machine basis. It's important to realize that from a corporate user perspective, if you list your app for sale in the Windows Store, every corporate user is going to have to buy that app separately. So they're going to have to use their payment instrument, their own credit cards or local payment instruments, and make those purchases themselves. So now let's take a look at how deploying your LOB app via the Windows Store, how it would look to your users. Here I've got the Windows Store up, and I can go navigate through all the categories that are available. If I go over here to the business category, I can take a look at all the apps inside there. Let's go look at this Insurance Claim Adjuster app by OnBase. And this is an app that is free in the Windows Store, comes with a bunch of demo data, and allows you to kind of get a feel for the app. And then it allows you to connect to your corporate resources in order to access the insurance claims that your people need to work on. So I'm installing it, and I'm going to launch that app. That app, you'll notice, has a bunch of demo data in here. So I can go take a look at in-progress claims, take a look at the auto accident claims, really kind of allow business users to get comfortable with your app and what your app can do. Then they can go in here in the settings. You'll notice that the connection settings is currently using demo data. They can turn that off and then authenticate with the corporate credentials that you provided them to hook up to their enterprise server. You can, at that point, use the Windows Store receipt APIs to keep track of how many users have activated for any one of these particular servers. You do that work, then you can handle all of kind of the payment and authorization directly. But from a user perspective, they get the app from the Windows Store, they update the app from the Windows Store, and they treat it like any other app that they've acquired from the Windows Store. Let's take a look at the second option of IT direct distribution. In this case, the app is not one that you want to have available on the broad Windows Store, and you want it available only within a particular enterprise. In this case, it's important that the certification of the app has to happen by the enterprise. So technical certification, we recommend using the Windows App Certification Kit, doing exactly the same pieces that is done by the Windows Store. But the content certification and declaring whether it is appropriate and useful for the particular corporation is something that needs to be managed locally. They also need to validate that you are who you say you are as a developer that is giving them those bits. These are pieces that are normally provided by the Windows Store and by Microsoft in certification on the Windows Store. The apps are managed by the enterprise, so they can be installed and updated by IT-based processes, whether that's in the runtime or in the initial image configuration. And they can only be run on enterprise sideloading enabled machines. What does that mean? It means that those machines need to be pre-configured by the enterprise. They're available for both IT-controlled and personally controlled PCs, and they can be manually configured or done via management software. Let's dive in a little bit what you as an app developer needs to do to prepare for IT direct distribution. You're going to need to sign with a trusted certificate. So what this means is that the app, when you're done with it, you need to sign that app. That app needs to be signed with a certificate that is trusted on all machines that will deploy that app. We recommend that you go with a certificate that is provided by one of the major certificate authorities, in which case the vast majority of Windows machines will not need to have any additional certificates deployed upon them in order to deploy your app. Also, the publisher name in the certificates must match the publisher name in the app. If those don't match, the app will not successfully deploy. You then need to run the Windows App Certification Kit. It validates the technical compliance of your app, and we expect that pretty much every IT department is going to ask to see the validation of that result set. They're going to want to see that it ran. And you're going to want to make sure that you're using the app's capabilities correctly. There's a set of 4 capabilities that are of particular concern to IT departments and for the security and confidence of our enterprise users. If you take a look at them, they're access to the local network in the enterprise, the local intranet, the private network client and server, the documents library, enterprise authentication, which gives the app access to the credentials for a user that's logging in with their enterprise credentials, as well as installing user certificates. We recommend that you look very closely at these capabilities and understand whether you really need them before you make the decision to include them in your app. Enterprises will scrutinize these apps with a closer view onto the security of their users' data. For example, we see that a lot of people ask for the documents library when they're just looking to open or save a file. That's not something that you need unless you need access to be able to enumerate over all of the files in the user's document library without the user selecting and making those choices. Otherwise, take a look at some of the great videos on how to use the pickers in order to get started with that. Now let's take a look at what the IT administrator needs to do to prepare those machines for direct distribution. They need to set a group policy that says install all trusted app. This allows the installation of your LOB app. Again, that app still must be signed to a certificate that changed to a trusted publisher. So just having the app signed or just having the group policy is not enough. You need both in order for that to get in. The app signing certificates need to be trusted, so if the enterprise is not using a certificate authority that Windows automatically trusts, then they're going to need to deploy their own custom certificate into the trusted publishers, into all of the machines that want to be done. Again, these apps can only be run on enterprise sideloaded enabled devices. What does it take to make something enabled for enterprise sideloading? Well, the machine must be enabled. If you're running Windows 8 Enterprise or Server Edition and your domain joined, you're good to go. Just set the group policy, get the certs there, and the apps can get deployed. You can also deploy on Windows 8 Professional, Windows RT, and non-domain joined Enterprise Edition by activating a secondary product key. That secondary product key is available for a volume license purchase and is available with your volume license subscriptions from Microsoft. So now, as an IT admin, you've decided that you're going to deploy and direct distribute this app. Now you have to make a decision of how you would like to deploy that app. You can deploy it as part of your Windows 8 base image. Then it's installed for every user at new user creation. And it's installed via the standard OPK. So you can use the DISM tools and the tools that you use for creating your base image for desktop apps and use them for one of these Windows Store LOB apps as well. You can also do it at runtime. This would be the case if you're using a management tool, or in a case where you wanted, for example, a startup script or a login script, or you have a script that the user actually runs at the time that they would like to install the app. In that case, it's installed on a per user basis, and it's installed normally using PowerShell commandlets or management tools. If we take a look at the PowerShell commandlets that are available to you, there's get appx package, which lets you query the system to find out what are the packages that are installed and what the version number is of those. You can do a remove appx package when you want to remove the app from the user's machine, or you can do add appx package. Let's take a look at how simple it is for us to go and add a package at runtime. If at runtime you want to add your app into the system, it's as easy as this. So you can do add appx package. Then I'm going into my approvals app, grab the appx, and go. Deployment operation has succeeded. Now if I go take a look, it has automatically been added at the end of the apps. When I launch that app, this is a expense approval app and actually shows you how kind of a new front end on top of standard SAP data that you're all used to. So for example, I can go in here, take a look at the expense details and decide whether or not to approve or reject those apps. Why is this interesting? You'll also notice that the app has a live tile, which tells me what is the pending purchase orders and approvals that I need to do. Now that you saw how easy it is to deploy your app via IT Direct Distribution using kind of PowerShell, let's do a quick recap of the options that you have for distributing your LOB app. The first option is via the Windows Store. In this case, the app is certified by Windows. It's an easy way for you as a developer to get your app available to all corporate users worldwide and to use the existing functionality and existing mechanisms that they have for installing and updating those apps. Second option, IT Direct Distribution, in which case your IT admins are going to be responsible for deploying and updating those apps, and they're going to be responsible for certifying that that app is something that they're comfortable with running inside the corporation. In that case, you're going to need to build it, get it signed appropriately, and you're going to need to make sure that, to work with the IT department to enable all the machines for enterprise sideloading. I hope that this video has given you the information to understand how to take your app and make it available to business customers worldwide on Windows 8.
Hi, I'm John Mullally, and I'm a program manager in the Windows Store team. When we set out to build the Windows Store for developers, we wanted to provide data to you to help you decide how to market your app, as well as how to improve your app over time. Let's take a look into how using the analytics reports from the Windows Store dashboard can help you make customer-focused decisions about your app. Starting from the Windows Store dashboard, we can see the tile for my app in the market. You can see right up front the number of downloads my app has, the average star rating users are rating with my app, and the amount of money earned so far by my app. To dive into the different analytics views, I can click on Reports. This will bring up the app summary page. This provides at a glance a view of the 4 key areas of information about my app. How many users are acquiring my app, how users are rating my app, information on the common crashes my app is experiencing, and how much money my app is making. Today, we will focus on the adoption and ratings reports. I'd like to know more about who is downloading my app, so I will click on Adoption in the left nav. Now I can see how many people are looking at my app listing page and how many people are then compelled to download and finally purchase my app. I specifically want to see how many downloads my app is getting, so I can click the Downloads in the left nav bar. Now I can see the download rates over time with my app versions overlaid, so I can see any changes my next version might have brought. I can also get some interesting demographic data about my users, such as their age and gender, as well as what country catalog they acquired my app from. For all the charts on the page, I can alter the filter criteria so that I can get a better set of the details for a set of users. For example, here I can look at the download details for just the country of China. Select the country of China and press Apply. Now I can see all the charts relevant to just downloaded users in China. If I want to go back to a state where I can see the data without any additional filters apply, then I can simply click Reset. Next, I would like to look at the usage of my app. Usage numbers show the average amount of time users are spending within the app during the day. I can see the version overlays, and then I can see that over time, my app is getting used by more users throughout the day. I can also change the time frames of which I would like to see this data for, as well as filter by specific form factors of PCs. Next, I want to look at the ratings my app is getting in the different market catalogs where I'm distributing my app. To take a look at my app's ratings, we will go to the Ratings page. To view my ratings for a specific market, I select a market from the Market drop-down. My app hasn't been available in the store long, so I don't have ratings and reviews in every market, but I do have some in the United States. This is useful as it provides a single place where I can see what users are saying about my app in all of the different markets I distribute my app to. Here you can see that I have several 5-star ratings and one 1-star rating due to a data loss issue. I can use this information now to help me find a bug in my app and submit an update. With the analytics experience in the Windows Store dashboard, we built the system so that you will be able to glean valuable insights into your users and help you understand what to do next with your app.
Hello, my name is Arik Cohen. I'm a lead program manager on the Windows Store. I'm here to talk to you about how you can make the most amount of money with your apps. We believe that Windows 8 provides the greatest developer opportunity ever. If you take a look at the Windows ecosystem, Windows has sold over 650 million copies of Windows 7 in 200 plus countries, in 100 plus languages, really providing a great basis for you to understand what is the potential audience for people to be able to get your app from the Windows Store. The Windows Store will be available in 220 plus countries and regions around the world. It will be available for developers in over 100 plus countries and regions around the world to submit their applications as well. We'll enable you to offer local pricing and settlement in over 70 countries around the world. How does the fee structure work for this is obviously one of the next most important questions for you. Well, we start with a 70% going to you, a 30% store fee on your application. Once your app gets to $25,000 worth of sales, it switches to a 20% store fee, so 80% goes to you. How do you define that pricing? Well, it's up to you. You can choose from any of our price tiers that are translated into all the currencies that are supported by the Windows Store. Those price tiers range from $1.49 all the way to $999. Once you've created your price point, now you have to decide how you're going to sell your app. So when we take a look at the flexibility and the options that the Windows Store provides, we really provide 4 different options for you on how you can make money with your app. The first option you have is to have your app be a one-time purchase via the Windows Store. You can offer a trial version of your app to increase the amount of users that will install and get started with your app before they make the final purchase decision. Offering purchases over time. Either those are persistent purchases, a persistent in-app purchase, or it's an expiring in-app purchase that will expire after a predefined amount of time. Third option that you have is to use your own commerce system. Why would you want to use one of those? Well, maybe you're fulfilling physical goods. Maybe you're trying to do your own subscription behavior. Maybe you've got an existing relationship and a billing relationship with your customers, and you don't want or need to rely on the Windows Store commerce system for that. Lastly, the fourth option for how you may choose to make more money with your app is to be ad supported. In that case, you may use the Microsoft Ads SDK, or you may use your own. So let's take a look at the decisions you've got to make when you decide to sell your app via the Windows Store. First is, what is the price point that you want to make? You do that by selecting one of the price tiers. The second is whether or not you offer a trial. We highly, highly recommend that you do offer a trial. Looking at data from the Windows Phone marketplace, we see that apps that offer trials make 7 times the revenue of apps that don't offer trials. 7 times the revenue. Users really want to be able to feel, touch, play, use your app, understand the value that they're getting from it before they decide to make that purchasing decision. Now, you've got a couple options about how you do that. One is you want to offer them the fully featured functionality for a period of time. Great. It's very, very simple to do that in the Windows Store. When you upload your application, all you need to do is select the duration that you would like that trial to be, and Windows Store takes care of the rest of it for you. It takes care of when that expiration happens, prompting them to make the purchase, and it really gives the opportunity for the user to get the full functionality of your app and really understand it, and then make a qualified purchasing decision. The other option is that you can invest and use the Windows Store APIs to create a feature differentiated trial, where you have some functionality that is only available in the full version as opposed to in the trial version. Now that you understand that trials matter, let's see how you would take advantage of this for your app. So when you make your decision that you want to sell your apps, and there's a couple basic decisions that we said that you had to make. First is, which is the price that you want. And you can see here that you can select from the set of price tiers that are available. This is on the selling details page of your release as you're onboarding a new app or updating the app that you have in the store. You can also decide, what's your free trial period. Do I have a trial? No. Do I have a trial that never expires? In that case, likely you're going to do some feature differentiation. Or do you want to do a 1, 7, 15, or 30-day trial? If what you want to do is a fully featured trial and letting the store taking care of making renewals, upgrades, reports on all of that, you can easily just select here, I'd like to make a 7-day trial. I've personally sat through and tried to decide what is the best way to monetize my application. Do I want to have a trial that expires after a period of time? Well, for this particular application, which tracks the growth of your kids, probably not that meaningful, because people are going to be coming back to it relatively infrequently, like when they're doing doctor visits or that and trying to check up on how their kids compare. I could also do it via in-app purchase. Have a free version that has some limited functionality and use in-app purchase to do it. But in the case of the version that's out on the Windows Store, you'll notice that it has a trial that never expires. With that, let's take a look at how that experience shows up in the store for end users that are trying to acquire this app. We looked for the Growth Tracker app. We can go select it. You'll notice again all of the data that has been onboarded by the developer, in this case myself. In fact, you see nice pictures of my daughter on there. You can see that now you have a choice of buying it or trying it. In this case, I want to get the trial first. So I'm going to select trial, and boom, the installation begins. We can launch straight from the notification that showed up, and now the application is available. You'll notice that I used the feature differentiation APIs to, for example, show that it's a trial version, as well as show that you can buy now. There's some functionality that's not available in the trial, but you'd have to go make that purchase. I can go and interact. There's a lot of the base functionalities there, so I can add my first child, Lila, and I can go and add one of her pictures that I want to select in there. Obviously, I can add more and more data. Another thing that I've done from a feature differentiation perspective is, for example, I said when you wanted to add the second child, no. The trial version only enables tracking one child. It is just that simple for a user to get hooked on the trial version of your app and make the decision to continue with the purchase. As the next example of an option that you have for monetization, let's talk about in-app purchase. Cut the Rope is a popular game from Zepto Lab Limited. This game is going to use in-app purchases in order to really give you additional content and let you kind of play your way through the game. You'll notice here that it shows up as a free app in the Windows 8 store. When I go and install it, when I launch the app, I launch straight into the familiar Cut the Rope experience. I can go start playing. I only have access to the first level at this point, in the first box. I can go and take a look at the other boxes, at all the additional levels that are available, and if I click on one of them, I actually have access to buy all of it for $4.99. In this case, I do want to make that decision to buy. I enter my credentials and click OK, and the purchase is made. You can offer new in-app purchases to unlock new app functionality and updates to your app. You can even have in-app purchases that expire automatically. For example, giving 7-day access to the premium features in your app. It's that simple for you to offer an experience that enables many purchases over time from your users in your app. The next app I want to show you is one that uses its own commerce system, in this case Newegg.com, a popular retailer for electronics and computer equipment. You'll notice here that they're actually allowing you to purchase physical goods that you can get fulfilled. In that case, you would not want to use the store commerce system. Other examples of this is you have an existing service or existing relationship with your own commerce system. I can go take a look at what are the deals of the day, select one of them, add it to my cart, and fulfill my transaction, checkout. I can log in. Then I enter my payment information into the Newegg app. This is information that's shared with the Newegg website. So if I had already made a purchase from the Newegg website, it would already have that information. So for applications that have an existing relationship and purchasing experience with their customers that want to continue using that, they can continue to do so. In this case, there's no store fee for any of the transactions that go through because the commerce system, the support, and the transactions are done by the app vendor themselves. The fourth option for monetizing your apps is using ads. Let's take a look at the Microsoft Studio's Game Wordament that has an ad-supported business model. You can use the Microsoft Ads SDK, or you can use any other Ads SDK that you would want in your app. If you use another Ads SDK, it just needs to meet the same technical requirements. So you need to run along with your app through the app certification kit, and then you're good to go. The flexibility of choice extends to any ad provider that you would like to use for your app. Now that we've seen some examples of apps that show you how you can make money with your apps, let's recap a little bit about the different options that you have. The flexibility of options that you have from the Windows Store really comes down to 4 basic choices. 1, are you going to sell your app directly via the store? In that case, we again highly recommend that you use trials. A trial for your piece of software will cause more people to download it and will cause you to get a higher amount of revenue. You can also take your app and offer additional content and services over time. That functionality using in-app purchases can either be persistent and available to the user over time, or it can be tied to only be allowed for a specific period of time. You can decide to use your own commerce engine. For example, if you're selling physical goods, you may want to do that. Or if you have your own commerce relationship with your customers already. Advertising, like we saw in that last app. That advertising can either be using the Microsoft SDK, Ads SDK, or you can use any SDK or any advertising engine that meets the technical requirements of the Windows Store. Hopefully you see that the flexibility of options that the Windows Store provides is going to enable you to make the most amount of money with your app. Hopefully you'll join me as someone delivering great apps with the Windows Store, and you see why I believe this is the most significant developer opportunity ever.